So the build I'm about to show you is incredible. I mean, it does so much damage and it is super easy to use. So we're going to get into this build right now. It is a strength faith build. Everything you're seeing here is recorded on New Game Plus 2, and I'm currently level 150. There also is going to be a sponsorship segment in this video, so I'm just making you aware of that, so when it does show up, you're not going to be surprised. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the video. So I can only describe this build to you as the Ordovis's Greatsword build I did a few months ago, except it's cracked out on steroids. We're going to be using the Devonia's Hammer, and this weapon is so incredibly good. With Devonia's Vortex, a chargeable skill that you're going to be able to wield over your head and smash down onto the ground, causing a ton of holy and physical damage, you're going to be staggering bosses, you're going to be one-shotting early bosses of the game, and this is overall going to be a really fun and easy time for you going through the lands between. And because this is a colossal weapon, it is going to have a little bit slower of a moveset, but it's going to hit incredibly hard, making up for that lost swing time. I've been tooling around with this build for the better part of 4 to 5 days, and I absolutely love it. I think you guys are going to have a great time playing it. The talismans complement this build very well, allowing you to get off a ton of damage, have some decent survivability, as well as feel like an ultimate powerhouse just walking through Elden Ring. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the hammer. So the Devonia's Hammer is going to do physical and holy damage as we discussed before. However, the physical damage is going to be 360 plus 453, and the holy damage is going to be 107 plus 28. We are going to be boosting both of those numbers by talismans, flasks, and buffs. Those won't be the final numbers, but you are going to get the AR of this weapon to skyrocket really quick. Now for your attribute scaling, you're going to have a Strength B, Dexterity D, and Faith C in this particular weapon, and the attributes required are 30 Strength, 13 Dexterity, and 19 Faith. We've poured a ton of stats into Strength, obviously because of that B scaling, but we didn't want to leave Faith too far behind, so our Faith is going to be rocking right around 30, just so we can still take advantage of that holy damage that scales with Faith. However, where this weapon shines like crazy is very similar to the Ordovis's Greatsword, which is Devonia's Vortex. This skill is going to provide 27.5 stance damage when it's not charged, and then when you do charge it up, it's going to provide 52.5 stance damage, which is incredible. With a fully charged Vortex and then one light attack typically staggering most enemies, this is a really fun combo, and it just leaves people crumbled at your feet. Another great thing about this Ash of War, which we mentioned prior, is that it is chargeable, which means we can take advantage of the Godfrey icon in this build, allowing us to boost all the damage of this build even higher, which is really awesome. The Ash of War is also going to provide you an insane amount of hyper armor, and typically you can't get knocked out of it if your poise is high enough unless you're fighting one of the really big bosses of the game, but you're also going to cause a multi-hit shockwave onto the ground after the Vortex hits, causing a ton of additional damage. Now, if you do want to find this hammer for yourself, it's going to be located in the DLC at the Raw Ancient Ruins East Site of Grace. There's going to be a Crucible Knight right there, and I'll show you the location right here on the map. All you need to do is kill that Crucible Knight, and this hammer is yours. So next up, we're going to be taking a look at our Flask real quick. We are using the Holy Shrouding cracked tier. Obviously, this hammer is going to be doing holy damage, so that's going to give us a plus 20% increase in our holy damage attacks, which is great. And then the second tier is going to be the Stone Barb cracked tier, which is going to temporarily make stance break easier. This is going to give you plus 30 stance and stamina damage, allowing you to really wreck people very quickly and get some really great criticals off. As I said before, this hammer has a lot of great stance damage with it, so adding that Stone Barb cracked tier is pretty much going to allow you to stance break in 1, maybe 2 heavy charged R2s. And I was just thinking, if you don't want to use the Holy Shrouding cracked tier here, but you want to focus more on some stance breaks, you can use the Spiked cracked tier if you're going to use some heavy charged R2s, because typically at the end of the base game, holy damage really falls off, so you can swap out the Sacred Scorpion Charm for the Axe Talisman and really wreck face. Now, to snag both of these tiers, the Stone Barb cracked tier is going to be located by defeating the Putrid Avatar near the Minor Erdtree in Caelid, located right here on the map. And if you want the Holy Shrouding cracked tier, that can be dropped from the northeastern portion of Liurnia of the Lakes after you kill the Minor Erdtree Avatar, located right here. So as all of you guys know, I've been playing Elden Ring non-stop for about a year and a half now, and especially now that the DLC is out, We are playing Elden Ring every single day as much as humanly possible. However, I can't always be here in my office, so VTuber sent out something that I think you guys are really going to find pretty cool. These are the VTuber Pro XR glasses, and what's so awesome about these glasses is the fact that I can play Elden Ring when I'm not sitting by my Xbox. With a crispy 120Hz refresh rate as well as only weighing 77 grams, these glasses are both comfortable and give a high resolution when I'm playing Elden Ring. And even though it's rare, sometimes there can be a small glare, so they've provided an awesome lens shield in order for that glare to completely disappear. In order for this to work, you need to go to your Xbox general settings and hit remote features. After that, it will ask you to put in your password and you can enable remote features from there. It will then test your Xbox to make sure everything is okay, and at that point you will be able to enable play to your glasses. VTuber also sent over an 8-bit DOE controller, which is very similar in shape and feel to the Xbox controller that I'm already using, so it was quite natural to go from one to the other. And the last thing I'll say about these glasses is you don't have to play games on them. You can watch streaming services like Netflix and Amazon Prime with crystal clear resolution. I'm absolutely loving these. If you are curious about them, I will leave a link to their website down in the description below, so you can go check them out for yourself. Alright, so now let's get into the talismans of the build. All 4 of these talismans are going to synergize well, allow you to do a ton of damage, and promote the holy damage that you're already doing. So starting out, we have in our first slot the Sacred Scorpion Charm. This is going to raise holy attack but lower damage negation, and what that means is you will be receiving plus 12% holy damage, but you will take an additional 10%, so there's a little give and a little take for this talisman. I found overall though that extra 10% damage taken is not that big a deal. Moving on into slot number 2, we have the Shard of Alexander. The Shard of Alexander is going to give our Devonia's Vortex a plus 15% increase in its skill damage, allowing that Ashavor to hit just that much harder. For slot number 3, we're going to be using the Two-Handed Sword Talisman. This is going to enhance your attacks with two-handed weapons. That means when you're holding the weapon with 2 hands, you are going to get a plus 15% increased damage boost with this particular talisman equipped. These are just for normal and heavy charged R2 attacks, but the fact that you're just getting some extra damage for two-handing your weapon cannot be overstated with this build. And finally, in slot number 4, we have the Godfrey Icon. The Godfrey Icon is going to enhance the charge skills and spells you have by 15%. Meaning once again, the Devonia's Vortex is going to hit that much harder, stacking on top of the Shard of Alexander and the Sacred Scorpion Charm, allowing you to hit like an absolute beast when your Ashavor goes off. Now the Sacred Scorpion Charm can actually be attained very early in the game at the Smoldering Church. Once you arrive there on the border of Limgrave and Caelid, you will be invaded, and after you kill that invader, you will then receive this talisman. The Shard of Alexander is a quest reward for his entire quest line. I will leave that video down in the description below so you guys can follow with me along step by step. Next up, the Two-Handed Sword Talisman is going to be found in the DLC at the Temple Town Ruins. You have to do a little bit of parkour to get up on top of the wall, but after you do that, you can find it in a chest in the tallest tower within the ruins. And lastly, the Godfrey Icon is going to be found the second you hit Altus Plateau. Take a right and go to the Golden Lineage Everjail that's there, and after you defeat that boss, you will receive this talisman. Now, the last thing that I'm going to tell you before you get into the stats of this build is as follows. If you've managed to go through the DLC already and have snagged the Sword of Light, you can do something that is incredibly awesome. Replace the Sacred Scorpion Charm with the Great Jar's Arsenal, and then use the Sword of Light's Ashavor Light to get an extra 20% increased holy damage with no downside. You can unequip the weapon and the buff will stick around, and this buff is going to last for a full minute. This is an excellent buff, but I didn't have the equip load currently, and that's not the overall decision I made with this build because I wasn't sure everybody would have that weapon. However, that is a very viable option and will allow you to skyrocket your holy damage with this build like crazy. Now, as far as the stats for the build, we are sitting at level 150 on New Game Plus 2. We have 57 Vigor, 21 Mind, 25 Endurance, 60 Strength, 18 Dexterity, 7 Intelligence, 30 Faith, and 11 Arcane. I'm sure these stats can be min-maxed just a little bit, but overall, I've had a really fun time playing with this stat spread, and it does the job. And guys, there we go. That is it for the Devonian Hammer build. I love it. I think it's super fun. I think it's an absolute blast, and you do a ton of damage. I'm about to take this build into the DLC, so I'll keep you posted in the comments with how it performs, but overall, I think it's going to be awesome, and from what I've seen so far with the build getting back into the DLC, things are going to be just fine. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for being here, hanging out, and checking out the video. Make sure to subscribe and hit the like button on your way out. And until next time, stay safe, enjoy the game. and I'll see you in the next one.